Building a team, especially a cybersecurity team, is a very challenging task. The cybersecurity field is very dynamic, and there are a lot of advancements every day in every aspect of it. And there are also multiple specializations that require different types of skills.
You're listening to KBcast, the cybersecurity podcast for all executives. Cutting through the jargon and hype to understand the landscape where risk and technology meet. Now, here's your host, Carissa Breen.
Louay, welcome to the show. It's so wonderful to have you on the show today because I have known you for a number of years and you've got an amazing background, great experience. So I'm really keen to get into some of your insights today. But before we do get into that, we always like to hear a little bit more about you and your story. So please tell our listeners where you started to where you are now.
Okay, hi, Carissa. It's my pleasure to be here. Okay, it's the story of how I entered the cybersecurity field is very strange, and it's a long story. I'll try to focus on the important milestones of it. It all started while I was in my junior year at the university. I was studying computer science, and at that year, maybe I started to think about the area in which I want to specialize. And at the same time, I started to be fascinated with all the things I read or heard about hacking. And I decided that I want to work in that area when I graduate. So I began looking for an advisor and guidance on what to do. And just to mention, during that period, which was around like the late 1990s, we're talking about 1998 or something, cybersecurity at that time really meant network security because most of the attacks were network based. So if someone was going to be skillful in hacking, he would really need to understand networks and operating systems very well. We had a professor who was known to be specialized in that area and was also in charge of a large networking center at the campus. Um, Although at that time there were no official academic courses dedicated to cybersecurity on the computer science department, he was mostly supervising the graduation projects with themes related to cybersecurity or hacking in general. And he was also teaching other computer science courses. So I used to go to him at his office and have several discussions on what to do, what to read, and he was giving me a lot of precious general advices. A year later, I thought of doing a graduation project related to that subject and have him as my supervisor, but unfortunately, it didn't work. Then I graduated, and I was always putting in my mind that I want to be specialized in this field. So I was trying to look for a job that can help me in that. Maybe like join a company that provides like cybersecurity services, or work in a cybersecurity department of a company or so. And as I said, at that time it was still the thing was related more to network security. So I started in several jobs. The first one was related to like writing software for networking applications for a company that's owned by the stock exchange. So I gained some experience in some part of the networking field, but then for some reason the activity of the company stopped. So I had to move to another company, and it was focusing more on developing business software applications. And but I wasn't that really happy, so I stayed for a few months, and I was still looking for a job that can help me break into the networking security or cybersecurity field. At that time, maybe before joining the second company, as far as I remember, I had a chance to do an interview for a recruitment company that was advertising jobs for a very well-known international cybersecurity company that had an office in Egypt. So I went there and I had the interview, but then like for a few weeks I haven't heard from them. So like I kept following up with them, and the reply I got back is that sorry, the job was cancelled. So I was very demotivated, of course. I joined like an oil field services company. I worked in IT support and IT operations, and part of the job was, of course, like learning some stuff related to networks. At that time, I started also to consider like studying for a certificate, maybe the ISEC squared CISP or like the other networking certificates, because also at that time there was always a dilemma between should I like have a certificate or learn from this course to try to enter a field or to be specialized, especially if there's no chance to have the hands-on for that area you want to specialize in. So I spent some time at that company, and I was always also trying to maybe to move to a team related or specialized in doing more networking stuff, but they were all located outside of Egypt. For some time, I got saturated from my job, so I had to move to another international networking services company. I acquired more skills in the networking area, and then they were also having some like cybersecurity teams, but again, they were located outside of Egypt, and there was no plan like to have some teams established in Egypt. So I got a chance to transfer to another team, but it was working in something completely different, which was like voice over IP and IP telephony. But the thing is, they were like going to build a totally new team, and there was a chance to travel to the USA to gain more experience. So I thought I can do that until I like have the chance to break into the cybersecurity field. So I traveled to the States. I stayed for a month or a month and a half, and I bought a study book or study guide for the CompTIA Security Plus certificate, because I thought this could be like a good start. If I study this certificate and I get it, and I indicate that in my resume that I'm trying to do some effort to break into the cybersecurity field, this could be like good for the recruiters. Strangely, after I returned to Egypt, I heard that a new cybersecurity team was going to be established. It was, of course, difficult to move at that time because I was still building the other team. Maybe after a year or a year and a half or something, I tried to approach this team when I saw one of the internal jobs posting. So I was interviewed by the manager who's based in Egypt, and things went well. Then I had to be interviewed with his manager who's based out of the UK. So the interview was done by the phone, and unfortunately, I didn't do very well. So I lost the chance of joining that team. And during that period, I used to go to the university to attend the employment fairs. This was like in early 2007. And by the way, at that time, like I acquired the Security Plus certificate. So after I updated my resume, I went to the university campus to attend the one of the employment fairs. And when I went through the brochure, I found that there was one of the big four companies like indicating some job positions for people to work in IT and cybersecurity, consulting and audit and so on. So I approached them. I handed them my resume, and the manager who was standing at the booth gave me good impression and said, "I'll forward your resume to the concerned teams." So some time has passed, and I didn't like hear from them. I kept like following up by sending emails and so on. So it took like a few months, or maybe like 9 months or something. During that time, I also applied to one or two of their competitors, because I started like to do some research on those companies, and I understood the idea that they work in cybersecurity consulting and they do IT audit, and part of the IT audit is also focusing on auditing like security controls. So after 9 months, I got interviewed by one of the senior manager at that firm, and the first interview went well. Then I met with the partner. I think it was on the same day, but it didn't work out again.
So has that led you to where your job is today, or?
Yeah, there was only one step between that. So after I was not successful in joining that big four company, I applied to another one, and it was like maybe the second time I applied to a position in that company, and then. Fortunately, they called me for an interview. I was interviewed. I passed the exam and so on. Then they offered me a job. So, and this was like exactly 10 years after I had my first conversation with my university professor. So I stayed for around like 3 years in that company. During those years, I learned a lot of things. I have done like a lot of hands-on. I took a lot of courses and certificates, and then I left after some time because we didn't have a lot of consulting projects. So guess what? I moved to the other big four company that I wasn't successful in joining. So I stayed for a few months, but the same circumstances in the market were the same. No consulting projects. The focus was on IT audit. And then I had a chance to move to my current employer. To build, and I mean, the position that I joined was related to building a new team for doing the security assessments and incident handling. So I started building that team, and I'm leading the team now for around the past 9.5 years. It was a long journey.
Wow, that's it. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing your story. So, speaking of security teams, I'm keen to hear your thoughts about building a security team, especially with your background and your experience.
Yeah, well, building a team, especially a cybersecurity team, is a very challenging task. The cybersecurity field is very dynamic, and there are a lot of advancements every day in every aspect of it. And there are also multiple specializations that require different types of skills. In addition, each organization has its own maturity level when it comes to cybersecurity. In my own point of view, there are main factors that the organization has to consider when deciding to have a cybersecurity team. The first thing is that they really should understand the importance of having such a team, because such a team is considered one of the control functions, and its role is mainly responsible for protecting the organization's assets, ranging from the information systems, the network infrastructure, the applications, the endpoints, and so on. And in order to do that, this team needs also to set all the policies and rules to govern the whole process. And the second thing is it's the type of business itself, and the cybersecurity maturity level will determine the priority of the cybersecurity activities, which can be translated to projects and also long time programs. So this will determine which skills are really needed on both the short and long terms, in addition, of course, to the number of the staff or the team members. So you start with a small team, and then you grow as you go. I think the main challenging factor of building the team will be the staff or the team members themselves. Because if we're talking about building a team, then we are talking mainly about choosing the right candidates. Part of the challenge is finding the right skills for every level inside the team. I think I read once a UK governmental data study that indicated that there were like around 35% of the cybersecurity jobs that are hard to fill. ISEC squared indicated in 2019 that there are like 4 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs. So imagine that the number is huge. And the thing is here, like we're not only talking about the core technical cybersecurity skills, because there are also like you're looking for also like very important soft skills that should be present, like acquired by those team members. And some soft skills I think are maybe like more important than the technical skills, because you can easily acquire the technical skills through learning from a lot of different channels, like attending courses or doing on the job training and so on. So you can easily acquire that. But for the soft skills, like they need a longer time to develop. In my opinion, like I'll just like focus on a few of the basic skills that should be present in any cybersecurity professional who wants to work in the field and successfully continue. So the first thing is the I will call it the attitude. So like the cybersecurity professional has to act like very professionally and be like a good team player. And I always believe in the saying, I hire for attitude, not for technical skills. The second thing is the responsibility. So the professional has to like really understand of the importance of fulfilling the tasks on time and try to be proactive. And because he's at the end he's working in a team or in a sector that's responsible for protecting the whole organization. The third thing is the eagerness to learn. So, and as I said, the cybersecurity field is a very dynamic field, and one has to be up to date in both like in the technical and business skills. The fourth thing is the persistence, which means that you have to have an objective and insist on reaching it. And the fifth thing is a very important thing, of course, it's the core technical skills themselves. So a cybersecurity professional should like be willing to learn all the time, as I said, through the different channels, whether to do on-job training, take courses, attend conferences, attend events, communicate with other professionals in the community, and so on.
I'm keen to hear your thoughts on finding the balance, though, between leading a team and then still being hands-on on the technical side, which is something that you obviously expressed interest in.
So a big part of why I love the field is because I was, as I said, I was fascinated with the idea of hacking itself, and I always wanted to do the hands-on and so on, and that's why I have like focused from the beginning on specializing in the technical areas, like mainly the ethical hacking area. I can't say that I'm the perfect guru in that, but I'm still learning a lot of things every day, and I try to do that in like in some of the tasks or projects we work in. So sometimes like I have a big part of a project that maybe like done by us internally or working with an external consultant that I take some part and do like the hands-on myself. And also, of course, outside of work, I try to do like at my leisure time, do some like practice by whatever studying or trying things or attending workshops or even playing in CTF competitions, because they are like a good way of learning a lot of practical stuff.
So I'd like to sort of focus on now how you personally manage an internal team versus an external team. Like, how do you, again, get the balance right? And do you have any strategy around managing this?
Yeah, of course. As a like a big organization, we work with external consultants or external teams, and we have our team. So and since I'm responsible for leading all the technical activities done by both teams. Yeah, I'll try to follow a specific strategy. So for the internal team's work, it's divided into two categories, like the daily tasks done by the team members, or the projects or mini projects that's like span a longer duration of time. So the daily tasks are related to different areas. So there are different team members performing them. And in order to get things organized, those activities and many projects are categorized under several team leaders who are directly reporting to me. And the other team members are working like as a pool of resources performing those activities. And depending on the nature of the tasks, like I get briefings whether on a daily or a weekly basis. And of course, I'm always there for any escalation needed or like any kind of interference. And sometimes I work on such activities in coordination with the team member. For the external teams or the external consultants, we always work with them on ongoing projects, and almost the same concept applies. So there are dedicated team members for each component of the project. And for example, like if there is like multiple applications that will be assessed by those external consultants, and this team member like does the necessary coordination and technical troubleshooting if needed. And we always like engage in understanding meetings and ongoing discussions with the consultants until they finish the project or the job or whatever. So, and we review their reports and also engage in several discussions until like we totally close the loop of like closing the gaps that were produced by this assignment. Of course, like there are stressful times when we get like loaded with concurrent tasks and projects performed by us and performed by the external teams. And so we try to handle things based on the urgency and priority of each one of those tasks and projects. by maintaining like good communication between us and with the external consultants, and also trying to follow the best practice in time management as much as we can.
So, would you say that it's worthwhile then to have a reliable external outsource team in case someone leaves, which happens, especially in cybersecurity? We are dealing with high caliber talent, and people unfortunately get poached for other roles. And I ask this question because in our space, you do need that instant capability that you can just sort of turn on immediately. Can you sort of talk through a little bit more and shed some light on your experience?
Yes, sure. Actually, it's always good to have an external team. I mean, like the external consultants, but it's not usually related to replacing an internal team or like replacing some of the internal team members who left. Actually, I see that the size of the organization and the type of business determine how to depend on an internal and external teams. For example, if we're talking about a very large enterprise, it's better to depend on both and divide the scope of work or projects between them. Because if you only depend on an external one, you may run out of budget. And if you only depend on the internal one, you may not fulfill all the requirements of all the projects, like unless, of course, you have an army of team members, and which may not be the case in a lot of organizations due to the like recruitment rules and the budgets. So maybe in smaller organizations that have adequate number of internal team members, moderate number of daily tasks and projects, this idea could work. However, note that this can also depend on the requirements of the industry or the standards followed by your organization, and even sometimes the rules of the regulator. I'll just give a quick example. So in the older versions of the PCI DSS standard, it was originally required that the team performing the penetration testing for the systems in scope should be a third party. And in the recent versions, they allow to have a qualified internal team to perform them. And in some sectors, the regulator requires that the applications or systems related to launching a new service where like you should take an approval from them is required to launch that service. Those activities should be performed by an external team, like whether there is an internal qualified one or not. So, in my opinion, I guess it's better to have both, like with a fair kind of scope balancing for all the projects and tasks you have.
So, do you think, though, for companies that have got multiple external consultants, perhaps it gets a little bit hard to manage? Would you say? Because I mean, the larger organization you have, like you may have up to 10, 15 plus vendors and service providers that are involved. Does that get complicated then?
I guess part of it could get complicated if there was like no adequate or relevant planning, and if you're like short of resources. So like you always consider when you work in projects with the external consultants about the time planning and the resources you have, because at the end the internal resources will coordinate with the external consultant. So sometimes it's hard when you have like multiple projects, like two or three projects at the same time. I mean, we haven't reached the number of like 15 projects, and it's I don't think that we're gonna do that, because I think it's impossible. But we're talking on average about like between two or three projects running at the same time. So good planning is an essential part here. Like we dedicate some of the internal resources to work in this project. Others are dedicated to the other projects, and the third group is dedicated to the third project. And we make sure that we try to make sure as much as possible that the time plans are clear and things are running on time. Of course, you could find like difficulties in some of the projects that could delay the project itself for whatever, some technical reasons, some other delayed stuff. So we try to always put alternatives and try to work on them until like we reach the goal of achieving the intended result of the project itself. Again, it depends on like good planning and good utilization of the resources you have.
Would you say that a lot of people have good planning though? Or do you think that that's sort of rare?
Not all people have good planning, and it's not really rare. So I think it's something in the middle. Part of like acquiring the good planning skills, it will come by experience. So when you work in a lot of projects and like be in the situation where like you're running like 3 or 4 projects at the same time, although it's like very stressful and very needs a lot of effort. When you do that a lot of times and several times and throughout the years, you'll get the relevant experience of being used to do that. So it could be like, yes, difficult at the beginning, but the more experienced you are, the more successful you'll be in managing that, or having the exact balance you want.
So, how do you sort of handle that conversation to an executive about wanting additional outsource capability? Now, it's always hard to have this conversation because there's always that push and pull. You can go back and say, okay, well, I need more money to get a larger team. And then obviously you're going to get the pushback to say, well, I've already handed you a whole bunch of money. Like, why do you need more people? So, how do you have that conversation where you're getting your outcome that you need as well as keeping your executive on side?
Actually, as I have indicated, like for the type of team I manage, like we have both models. We work with external consultants and we have our internal team. So, for example, recruiting new guys, if there is really like a justified business need, sometimes we could like even talk to the senior management. However, bear in mind that there is a general rule for recruitment inside a lot of organizations. So they have, for example, they have like specific plans for each sector. For every year, that, for example, for this year you can recruit 2 or 3 guys, or you have like unfilled spaces or positions for those number of guys. So it's also related. Part of it is related to the budget of your department, because at the end, like, you're having some of the budget to pay for the salaries of new team members. In specific cases, the organization may need to recruit like professionals who are experienced in a specific or a rare area where like you have to launch a new activity. For example, during the last couple of years, we established a unit inside my team responsible for the cyber threat intelligence activities. So I had to recruit maybe 2 guys who have good experience in that area. So we try to adapt with the HR rules, and although it could be like difficult sometimes, especially when the recruitment process takes some time or delayed. So in general, when there is a business need, we tend to recruit. And if there is a need to talk to the executives or senior management for getting an exceptional approval, for example, we do it. And in most of the cases, it was fine. I mean, it went fine. So as long as like you have a valid and solid business justification, things go easily with them.
Well, I asked that question simply because, as many people out there, they may not necessarily understand some of the nuances like of the field. So, you know, from an executive perspective, they might say like, "Hey, Louay, you've already got 50 people, and now you're asking for 20 more." So that was sort of more the angle that I was thinking. Like, can you talk through perhaps from that perspective?
Yeah, and as I said, at the end, it depends on the like maturity of the organization. So I think if this organization is really understanding the importance of having like a strong cybersecurity team, and they really understand the need to have this team and need to grow its or increase the number of its members. And the need to work in different activities and new initiatives and so on, I think things will get easily. If the maturity level is low, and like we're talking about maybe a small organization that they're still not really valuing the importance of having a cybersecurity team or a cybersecurity unit, and they see it just as a department where like there should be like only a specific number of people working in that. Of course, things will be difficult. So a big part of it depends on the maturity level of the organization and the maturity level of the senior management in terms of knowing the importance of the cybersecurity area.
Wow, thank you. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts or statements that you'd like to leave our listeners on?
As I said, like it took me 10 years to enter the field, but at the end, I did it. So I want to advise the guys younger than me that be patient and always put an objective and work on it. Even if you cannot fulfill that objective in the time you wanted it to be achieved, just change your plans. So change your plans, but don't change your objective. And I think things are a little bit easier because at the time of when I tried to break into the field while I was at the university, the only like way to learn was by like getting or buying books and maybe some sources on the internet. Now we have a lot of resources, like you have a lot of online courses, a lot of physical courses, a lot of blogs, a lot of videos, a lot of research papers published. So this will make things faster. So in terms of learning, so learning became easier than 15 or 20 years ago. The thing is, as I said, just put an objective in front of you and try to be patient, try to be persistent, and definitely you'll reach it, even if you're delayed, but you'll reach it.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's a long time to finally get into the space. So your perseverance was definitely on your side. So thanks, Louay. Thanks very much for your time and sharing some of your insights and your experiences today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Carissa, and hope we'll meet again and talk again because we have like endless topics in the cybersecurity area. Thanks a lot for having me and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you found today's episode useful and you took away a few key points. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get our latest episodes. If you'd like to find out how KBI can help grow your cyber business, then please head over to kbi.digital.
This podcast was brought to you by KBI.media, the voice of cyber.